Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, I'd like to first thank Richard for having us here. Jess and I are really excited to talk about a subject that we're really passionate about, which is reinventing the show floor and really focusing on the future of the trade show and the future of our industry. So we've been able to do some fun things and experiment at Access Intelligence. We want to share some of the stories with you today. As Richard said, Access Intelligence is a B2B media company, and we now serve actually 5 markets: aerospace, healthcare, energy, media, and marketing. You may know us best by our Expo magazine brand, but I've put up some logos from some of our trade shows that we produce. I think one of the benefits that we have in working in so many different markets is that we get to have individual test beds across our shows. So we are very well aware that something that works in our healthcare division may or may not work in our event marketer division. But it's kind of fun to be able to test them out and try them on different markets. So we wanted to first kick it off by telling you a little bit about ourselves. I grew up in trade shows in marketing, so that is my subtle way of saying I'm not operationally minded whatsoever. And Jess makes the dream a reality. Where I've really thrived is finding subsets of markets or underserved markets within the verticals that we serve, and either building components to our current events around them or launching events for those underserved markets. And that's been one of my favorite parts of my job. I've been with Access Intelligence for 8 years now.
Hello, everyone. Thanks to Shepard for having us here. Very excited about it. As Jen said, I'm the Director of Operations for Access Intelligence. My operations managers cover the 30 trade shows or so that are throughout our Norwalk, Connecticut, our New York, and our Rockville, Maryland offices, and that spans all of our different markets that we cover. And really, I came up through, I've actually been on a lot of different sides of the business. I've done registration, I've done ops, and I've done content development. So managing the sessions and the speakers, and now I get to be the speaker that I always hate so much. So with my high maintenance requests, and thank you, Richard, for bearing with us. But anyway, really what I do, my secret to success is I'm always looking for cost-saving opportunities and ways to help out the bottom line. I do that through economies of scale. How can we look at all of these shows, whether it's in a healthcare market or if it's in a media market, and where can we find those synergies to capitalize? And then just finding new ways to enhance that attendee experience, to make them leave every event saying, wow, I've got to go back next year. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about one of our events that Richard mentioned, that we were having lunch one day and talking about this event and some different things that we've done, which is how this session came to be. But we're going to go through some of the things that we're doing. But please note, we recognize there's no silver bullet, there's no holy grail solution, and there's certainly no one size fits all. Every show is different. Every corporation or association is different. Every attendee base is different. So our goal today really is if we can give one idea that you can take back and apply it to your events, then we'd be very happy with that, or just to get the conversation going and thinking. And so along with that, as we go through some of these elements, if there's something really cool that you're doing, please raise your hand and share it with the group. I think that'd be really great to hear from some other groups as well, what show you're working on and then what you're doing. And if there's something that we're presenting up here that you've done better, then hey, please raise your hand and say that too. We're always looking to make our shows better as well, so we want to learn from you too.
So the first show we're going to focus on is a show called Event Tech, and Jess actually manages, as she talked about, a central operations department excuse me, for all of our events. So That department was created in January of 2013, and this event was launched in November of 2011. So we didn't get involved in it until 2013, but it was launched in New York City as a brand extension to our Event Marketer brand. Event Marketer serves corporate event planners, so every big brand that you can think of, from Target to Under Armour, to Honda, to Budweiser, when they do a product activation or they do a launch event, they turn to Event Marketer as their source for information. And what we saw as a theme, with them, as you see in trade shows, is that the need for technology has been, abundant and increasing, and there's so many different vendors out there. So Event Tech kind of grew out of that. It was launched in New York City at the New World stage with 150 attendees in 2011 and a few tabletops. In 2012, it did double in size from the number of attendees. But when we got involved, our question really was, how do we take this event that attracts, the best experiential marketers in the world and give them an experience? What we realized we were doing is we were not delivering what we had promised. We were not practicing what we preached to them. So we decided to really turn the event on its head and invest in the event and actually reinvent the event. So the biggest thing that we did in doing that was to introduce a campus show floor. So interactive sessions on the show floor, interactive sponsorships, almost everything took place on the show floor. The second thing that we did was really focus on the conference content. So we introduced TED-style sessions, 20, 30, 40 minutes at most sessions. We presented more than 200 sessions over a 3-day conference. And that really helped with the interaction and also, kept the energy of the event going. The third thing that we did, and this comes into profitability and also growth for the event, which was certainly one of our goals, is move the event to Vegas. So anyone who's done events in New York City and done events in Vegas, you know very well the cost differential there. But we decided to go to Vegas because we would have more space and more ability to really make some changes quickly and, quite frankly, cheaply. The other things we did as far as a revenue generator is to overhaul the sponsorship and exhibit packages. And I think this ties in really well to the last session. And the point that was made is that experiences are what sponsors want, and creating 365-day-a-year packages. So we made a conscious effort to do so. Overhauling everything that we had to offer. You weren't just buying a booth, you were buying an interactive package. So it included social media, it included push and pull marketing, and it included branding throughout the event. And lastly, what we did was to communicate the plan to the market. So we really had to go through a few-step process. One was identifying what the vision was and what the event would be. 2 was training the staff and making sure that they could clearly communicate the value proposition of the change and why we made the change and what we would deliver on site. And then 3 is to tell the market. And we told the market through 2 ways. One, we did a launch video, which I'm going to show to you in a second. But the other thing that we did, I think, really well is when we got on site, we opened up the event with how you navigate it. This is how it's different. This is what you should expect. And this is how you need to interact with the campus, because it was something different and we really wanted to guide them through the experience. So if we could see the video.
longer a meeting, it wasn't a conference, it wasn't a gathering, it was an experience.
So we really created this video from scratch using actually some sizzle reels from some of our attendees and some of their events. And we've tried to communicate the excitement, how the event was different, and really what the benefit would be to go to the event. And now we're going to transition actually into talking about the nuts and bolts of the event. As we talked about earlier, the core for us was transitioning this tabletop conference into an experiential campus.
So now that we have this idea, it was time to look at it and say, how do you take this concept and make it a reality? How do you get to the event on site and have every attendee, every exhibitor, and every sponsor completely understand your vision? And we did that through several different elements that we're going to walk through, from the floor plan to the creative and show branding, renderings, food and beverage, AV, and then final touches and your exhibitor buy-in. So let's start with the floor plan. We knew that we wanted something different. Our directive was to go funky. I mean, we needed something different. We needed something that people hadn't seen before that would stop you in your tracks when you came through the door. With that, we also knew that we were going to put our sessions on the show floor. So we had to create optimal traffic flow where every aisle and every road led to more content, and that kept the attendees moving throughout. We also didn't want to start with a traditional floor plan where your larger booths are at the front and then your small 10 by 10 guys are in the back. We wanted to do big booths throughout so that every booth space was prime real estate. It was really a 360-degree show floor. So let's take a closer look at this. Let me get up here. Come over here and see. You think that works that far? I don't think it does. All right. So with this, you see in the center, this is our main theater. This is where the majority of the larger sessions were taking place. The four corners were our, if you want to say breakouts, those were our smaller corner theaters. On the top and the bottom, you'll see, we called those our guru bars. I'll get to those in a minute. I heard someone ask about genius bars earlier. So that's essentially what they were. And then you see that we have, those larger footprints of booths all the way around the floor. It's not all in one area, so that traffic is constantly moving. But once we had the floor plan set, it was time to really figure out how we were going to convey this vision. And we look at it as, the full show cycle. It's not just what you are putting out once you get on site with your on-site program guide and your signage. It's the entire experience all the way through, which you saw in that video. It's where the vision comes to life. So here's just a sample of one of the elements of our creative. This, for lack of a better term, we called it the eye. That really demonstrates the connection between the consumer and the technology. Then the first impression of attendees once they arrive on site, as with your shows, registration's your first touch point with your attendees. So it needs to be front and center. That's first impression. And as you can see here, we took our reg counters and we incorporated those elements throughout. Next, it was time to develop what those theaters on the floor and our other structures were going to look like. So we were sitting there, we're thinking, all right, this has got to be different. This cannot be a traditional room set. We wanted interactive learning experiences. We wanted to have that intimate setting within this really busy trade show floor. We didn't want a presenter just standing up there clicking through slides and lecturing, having that one-way conversation. We wanted something more interactive. And we also wanted to use each of those theaters on the floor as a branding opportunity. So this is our main theater rendering of the center stage. We started out, this rendering here is drawn as a 3-foot sidewall all the way around. We ended up, right before we went on site, we switched it to a 5-foot just to try and make it more enclosed. Truth be told, to do it again, I would probably do the 5-foot and then I'd do clear plexi above it, just because we did have some sound issues and it was a little distracting, so I think that's something we could have done better. But instead of using black drape to achieve this, or just a solid hard wall all the way around, we did specific branding for the center theater, because this theater you could see anywhere you were on the campus. Here's how it came out on site. This theater was set for 200 theater, I believe, but you see the sidewall there off to the side, and it went all the way around. The Guru Bar. So this is the Genius Bar that they touched on a little bit in the session prior, that we did try out for the first time. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's Apple has their Genius Bar, where it's an Ask the Experts one-on-one interaction. And what we used it for, we actually did these as mini sessions, where we did regular seating around it. We had demos, we had Q&A sessions, and we had 2 of these that ran throughout. So here's how it came out on site. All right. One of the things when we were approached about doing this non-traditional show floor, I was sitting there and I was thinking about, all right, in my mind, what is the definition of traditional? And one of the things that came to me was box entrance unit. So how do we get away from that? This is a rendering of our entrance towers that highlight those branding elements that we've been carrying throughout the entire campaign. It actually ended up coming out really nicely. So that's one angle. There's the other one. So it was different, you know, it's not what you're used to seeing at an event, and that is really what our goal. We asked ourselves with every decision that we made, is this something that you would see elsewhere? Now, I mentioned before we had what you would think of as breakouts. Jen was with the format. She was saying these are 20 to 30 minute sessions, TED-like sessions. It's quick, it's fast-paced, get the information, get out. There were 4 of these stationed around the entire show floor. And with those, again, not traditional projector and screen, we actually did design these to be a little different as well. And this, I believe, is set for about 75 on each one. So now, this is an event, obviously, for heavy focus on technology. So that obviously was a huge consideration for us. We knew we had to push the bar a little bit and go more high tech. Now, just because it is an event for this technology, we still had a budget we had to maintain. So unfortunately, there's so many great things you want to do and you have all these great ideas, but sometimes your budget just doesn't allow. So what we did here, and what I always recommend to all of my ops managers, is rely on your AV vendor to be a strategic partner for you. Let them know how much you have to spend and what can I do that's really cool for this, because they may have done another show the week before and said, hey, I've got some really great pictures from this, let's try this out. And that's something we did on this show. We pushed our vendor to come up with some new things for us and to help buy into this vision. We explained what we were trying to achieve and asked them for a way to do that. And there were a lot of different solutions that they provided. I have to say we went back and forth a lot to find something that really met our needs. And honestly, you know, there were areas where we did cut corners to save on costs. You know, one thing that we did for the corner theaters, we had speakers that are all the way around, kind of enclosing, because it's an open format. It's interactive, it's open. So noise we knew was going to be a bit of an issue. The one thing that I think was an area that we cut on that we're hoping not to moving forward, based on what we saw last year, was putting a speaker at every seat so that you can hear better. With all the traffic moving, it just seemed to work out well, but that's something that, you know, we probably could have done a little better there. But you do have logistical considerations in an environment like this, in this campus format, because it is all open. You know, you don't have walls closing you in where it's dedicated. You have exhibitors right behind you talking to customers. You have to consider the attendee that's just passing by that wants to listen to 5 minutes of your session and then keep going. We also had sessions starting and ending at different times. They were staggered throughout the day so that there was always something going on. They were in these 20 to 30-minute intervals, but one might start at 9 a.m. and go to 9:30, but another might start right down from it at 9:10 and go to 9:40. So everything was on a cycle that you had to really consider. And I know that setup was a bit of a logistical challenge just because there was a lot of testing that was involved to make sure that sound was not going to be an issue.
Yeah, I think what's important there is we needed everybody in every theater to hear comfortably, but no offense to the AV guys in the back, but sometimes you like to really pump it up, right? So we had to make sure that the techs understood that, you know, everybody needs to hear comfortably, but not have it overpower the conversations with the exhibitors or overpower the theater right down from them.
Yeah, and you know, something else on AV too, to think about is if you want to try something new, one of the ideas that I'm thinking about for next year is going more with digital signage. That has a huge impact. I mean, it does really help you because you can make changes up to the last minute and not worry about reprinting. And then you just take your signage budget and roll it into your AV budget at that point. So that's something that I also want to think about for next year, now having a first go round at this event. But, all right, so food and beverage. Well, so what did we do differently in 2013 after we had moved the event out of New York? What did we do differently was the first thing. Well, the first thing, we actually fed them. It's amazing what that does for attendee experience and perceived value. The event before, being in New York, we were able to just hand them a list of restaurants, you know, at lunchtime. Everything was right there. It's very walkable. Vegas isn't quite the same situation. So we were in the Bellagio Hotel, and this was something that we invested in, adding in breakfast, lunch breaks, receptions. All of this was an investment to enhance the attendee experience. Now, for the location, instead of having one designated area for the food, because we were going with that 360-degree theme, we placed the food on the perimeter all the way around. So again, every aisle now leads to content, and every aisle now leads to food. Both of, you know, two of the most important things to attendees, right? And then we worked on custom menus. For this portion, this is event tech. It's an event for event professionals, which, while for us it's really nice, you know, we love serving our people. You know, these are our colleagues and our counterparts on other events, and it's really fulfilling to work on an event that way. But those are also the toughest critics as far as when it comes to food. These are people who As you guys all know, you've tasted every bit of rubber chicken that exists out there. You've had it any which way that they can make it. And so this group was no different. And what we needed to do was we sat down with the chef at the Bellagio, and we explained, again, back to explaining the vision, we explained who these attendees were and their background. And that then started this conversation of what can we do that's different? What can we do? And honestly, the times that we've done this, we've had chefs say, thank you, I actually like being able to be creative and to do something that's different. But there is that extra step and that extra amount of planning that goes into doing something like that. Is anyone in here right now doing custom menus at your events? You are? Good, okay, that's a good number. I think it really helps bring something new. If you have a more health-conscious crowd, we've done a soup as an appetizer for lunch, and then we've done a grilled chicken Caesar salad as the entree. I have another event that's, they're very meat and potatoes kind of guys, as in you don't serve them salad at all. So what we did is we did a heavy hors d'oeuvres before lunch on the show floor, and then we did a barbecue-themed lunch, cut the salad, and so catering to that audience, but really thinking what is for my group. We have another event that are for operating room managers, so the nursing crowd. And for them, something that we're trying this year is we're doing a recipe contest where they're sending in recipes, and then we've gotten the buy-in from the chef at the convention center to create those winning recipes that we vote on actually at the event. So a lot of fun things you can do rather than just serving them, food for their lunches. We've also done, and on this event in particular, and you can see it a little bit in this picture here, a family-style menu. Serving this way, it has, I think there are pros and cons to doing this. A pro, it engages attendees, it's different. It's also a sit-down feel for a buffet price. So, those of us who are operationally minded, we like that. But that's one way to do it. I would say a con of that, you have to think about what types of food you're going to do. Pasta does not do well in family style. I have learned that the hard way, and I will not do it again. But it's just something different. But by asking, they're typically willing to work with you and create something for you. It doesn't retain heat. It gets cold really fast. So unless they have, and even if they have something like warming on the table for it, it dries out really quickly. And that's what I saw the one time that I shamefully did it. So, yeah. What type of attendee base was it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Did I see something over here? Yeah.
Could you use, I loved your idea about seminars, but I understand about disposable.
Uh-huh.
Could you use earbuds, like you can buy little disposable earbuds?
That's a good idea. Yeah. I haven't looked into that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Definitely.
That's great.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually considering doing that on my show. Sennheiser microphones makes a wireless transmitter and wireless receivers. They come in
All right,
Yeah.
great.
Right.
Great. A couple other things with food and beverage. At the Bellagio, they do not have lazy Susans. They are called active Bettys, which, is just, thought that was kind of cute. So again, it creates that, a little bit of extra personality to your event. We did a juice bar on the show floor for this event. And then we talked about the custom menu and then themed breaks. I have to give it to Shepard. There, especially yesterday, the break that we had in the afternoon with the test tubes and the smoothies and all of that, on point exactly with the theme. That's exactly, something that I want my events doing, to carry that throughout. Some other ideas that we've done for custom or themed breaks, we've done all things green or all things yellow. We've done things specific to a city or to a venue. We've done an Asian fusion themed break, different things like that. So just something to think about. It's a little bit better than putting out, muffins and cookies and calling it a day. Just that little bit of extra experiential factor. It's really helpful. All right, so furniture feel and final touches. This is really where the little details make the biggest impact. How many people here really liked getting their hotel room key when they checked in with Shepard and not having to go all the way to the front? I have to say, I thought it was great. Those little details mean so much, and that's something that we really put a lot of focus and effort into doing. So first of all, custom furniture for the lounges. On Event Tech, if you see the bar stools that they're sitting in here, that's all custom furniture. We're fortunate for this event, we are able to do sponsorships around those things because of the nature of the event. But if you're able to do it, I think it's great. Some events that in other markets that don't have those sponsorship opportunities, based on the market, we've gone to the venue and we've said, can you send us pictures of all of your furniture? And after I get the initial, you're crazy response, then we can look at it and we can choose our stage furniture. We can choose, different things, so it doesn't have to be the regular chairs that are in a session. All right, charging stations. At Event Tech, we set up a number of charging stations. I know that this is not a new concept. We created lounges throughout, and again, this was a sponsorship opportunity, but it worked out really well because everyone on the campus, people were in sessions, they were on the floor, they never had to leave. Even if they wanted to check their email or charge their iPad, they didn't have to leave, and that's what we wanted because that is also something that we can really sell to our exhibitors of the perceived traffic flow. The badges, we use those as an opportunity to give it a little extra flair. We did backstage pass designed badges that were hard plastic. I actually brought a couple of them that we've done in shows before, but it's not the general paper badge. It's gives more of an experience with that, as you can see here from one of the photo booths. Visual interpreter at the main stage. So this is a woman, her name's Stephanie. She does visual interpretation of sessions. She will draw what she hears in the session and create this 8-foot poster board of essentially what they were talking about in that session. And then we hung them throughout the entire campus for the duration of the show. And the number of people walking by and stopping, looking at it and going, wow, that's really cool, or wow, I can't believe I missed this. It just added an extra little element to it because she's standing off to the side of the session and she's drawing as she goes. It's really cool feature, but just again, something a little extra that got attendees talking.
I was at that event, I missed session, but I saw those around your event and it's really resonated.
Yeah.
And it really stuck with me and it was such a great visual way to present information. I thought it was genius. I loved it.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
She's independent. We can
Indep-
send you her information. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she'll fly anywhere. And, yeah.
Yes, we've now used her on, I want to say probably like 5 shows, 3, 4, 5 shows at this point. So she does all different types and all different kinds. All right, mobile app and dashboard, the mobile app dashboard and alerts. Pretty much now, I would say at least most of our events have mobile apps, but it's one thing to have the app, but then you actually need to really get it out there and use it to its fullest capability to get that adoption rate. And so one thing that we did, the vendor here was Double Dutch, and they were an exhibitor as well. And we did a lot of mobile alerts. We set those up so that, you remember these sessions are starting at staggered times. These sessions are going 20 minutes here, and then, theater 4 over here might be starting in 5 more minutes. And so we kept letting people know what's going on and where things are going on. Now, we also had the attendees engaging with us on this. If you look off to the right there on the picture there's a large, it looks like an iPhone. That's actually a dashboard, and it tracks who's on at what times, who's checking in places. It actually also tracks who is checking in and tweeting the most. And so then you'd hear these sidebar conversations of, oh man, I've got to go check into this session because I really want to knock that Geico girl off of there, off of the top spot. And so it's creating this buzz and this feel. So it was more than just, putting up a sign saying, hey, download the mobile app, it'll give you the entire program and the exhibitor listing. Great, it's taking it to that next level of using it on site for constant engagement. Hologram. So this is something we did, as you can see here off to the right, that is an actual hologram in a session. I know that this isn't something that really works for a lot of shows, many shows even, but the point of this is do something different. We did a couple different things like this. We had the hologram in the session, what you're seeing here, and then we also had this augmented reality experience on the show floor, where we called it, we did a hottie or naughty contest. And we had the general manager of event marketer of the brand dress up as Elvis, and he was going up against, in this contest, Miss Michigan. And we had a video of each of them, begging for votes. And then this augmented reality experience, we had a mobile ambassador who was going around the show floor asking for votes, and you would vote by taking your picture and tweeting it out through social media. And of course, our general manager, Elvis there, he was the naughty, but as expected. But it was another way to engage on the show floor. A photo booth, I know a lot of folks are doing that now. I'm seeing that coming up at shows all over the place. We had a number of exhibitors that actually had photo booths on our show floor. And the cool thing about this is once you would take your picture with these props, it would automatically tweet out or post to your event's social media sites. So it's already adding that extra level of engagement that you as a show organizer aren't trying to be that person saying, hey Jen, please, can you go sit in that session and tweet about it? That'd be great. It's your attendees are doing it and they're getting engaged. So those pictures, and those I know are brandable. You can get them sponsored. You can brand it with your show logos. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with that, and we had several of these around the show floor. So this is one of my favorite pictures from the event. It shows that you have attendees engaging with each other. You have attendees engaging with exhibitors. You have attendees demoing exhibitors' technology. You have people using the lounges. And the thing that's like the greatest for me is I look at that and I see full aisles, density everywhere. And that's really what we're looking to do. We're looking to create that cutting edge experience. And end of the day, attendees can go to a lot of different trade shows within your market. They're popping up all over the place. And you want to have that one trade show that they go to and they say, I'm not going to miss this one next year. I don't know what my schedule is yet, but I know that I will be at this one. That is our goal. And it's constantly raising the bar in order to do that. So the weight doesn't have to fall all on your shoulders. Your exhibitors can be your best advocates. And getting their buy-in, they can really bring a lot to the table that complements your efforts as far as for increasing the experience for the attendee. And so the first step, and something that we did and that we hammered home, was selling our vision to our exhibitors. Not just in the sales process of trying to get a contract signed, the whole process. We talked them through every element that we were bringing to that trade show floor to say, look what cool stuff we're doing. And then we pushed it back on them and said, now we need you to bring your A game. We need you to bring your latest products. We want hands-on demos. We want high-tech, cool stuff. And and at that point, we just stood back and let them go crazy. This is one of our booths that you could get a photo taken with Alan from The Hangover. So it worked pretty well for Vegas. So it's pretty good there. But they can be your best advocates. So selling the vision to them, and that'll help get them excited along the way.
Okay, so wrapping up on event tech, just wanted to highlight a few of the things that we thought we did well. One is definitely that we made a commitment and an investment to see the plan through, and first and foremost really created the plan and made sure that all of the stakeholders, from the staff to the executives in the company, were buying into it. We threw out the traditional session format and had smaller sessions in theaters and at the Guru bars that were 20 or 30 minutes long. Moved all the food onto the show floor. Had a clean design for the theaters and the center stage, no straight aisles, and we had great, exceptional feedback, honestly, from the exhibitors and sponsors. They felt the buzz. The floor was busy the entire time, and I think really instructing the attendees that after you sit in this session on social media optimization, visit these 5 booths that are offering that really worked very well. And we made more money, which was also one of our goals. The top line revenue grew by 57% year over year. What we could have done better, we did still have a couple of breakouts outside of the campus, and we received complaints about that. So honestly, from attendees, not from exhibitors, but that they didn't want to leave that environment. So we're keeping everything on the campus floor this year and not doing any breakouts outside of the campus except for our large keynote. The sound was the biggest challenge, but we definitely are looking into options for that. And that was something we anticipated, but overall I think we didn't have many complaints. We just felt like we could have done it a little better. And one of the things we noticed is people would enter into the campus and kind of do a 360, like, where do I go? So we recognized that we probably could have used road signs or more directionals to actually get people to where they needed to be. What we're doing next, so on that center stage, we are going to add a blogger bar around the perimeter to, again, increase engagement. We are moving all the content into the campus. We are introducing 2 registration tiers. This is a all-conference event, so we do have all paying attendees. So we're introducing 2 tiers, a premium pass that gets you a seat at the keynote and a seat at the awards luncheon, and then a regular pass that gets you into the campus and the live streaming of all of the content, that the little bit of content that's taking place outside of the campus will live stream into the campus. So we're excited about that, and it also gives us an opportunity to stay in the same venue for 1 more year, yet continue to grow our attendance, and that's really why we had to introduce this. We also are introducing a second screen experience. So on some of the theaters, we will have iPad stations as the attendees enter. They will have a second screen experience on the iPad that will be expanded content from what's being covered in the session. So they can see a video on a product that's mentioned, they can do polling, they can go to a website. A lot of the vendors that we're looking at now have the ability to kind of lock down so you can control the level of interaction so that it's not a distraction but an enhancement to the session, and also offer sponsorship opportunities around that. So we're excited to test that out. And our last edit for 2014 is to merchandise the show a little more. So we had, the traditional bookstore on the show floor with T-shirts and our books and things. But this year we're going to have the attendees enter the campus through the merchandising area and then go in to the rest of the exhibit area. So we're testing different ways, and different models on how to build that out. So what we learned, as we talked about, to just continual AV checks. I mean, I just felt like I circled that hall for 3 days straight. And, you had to kind of go around, sit down, make sure you could hear, okay, good, keep going. And I think that was probably the biggest challenge. It could have been called the move-in from hell. I think it went okay, but I mean, just getting up all those theaters and the exhibits at the same time in a short period of time was something that was a challenge for us. And I think, our inspiration were the events that the attendees for this event put on. So visiting corporate events has really been an eye-opener for me personally, and it gives me a different perspective. So we modeled a lot of that campus off of the Microsoft event and SAP Sapphire and Cisco Live, and looking at those events, their websites, how they sell sponsorships, how their floor plans are laid out is really interesting. And we had our event marketer event, which is the sister to Event Tech, just 2 weeks ago in Salt Lake City, and I got to sit down with the VP of marketing for SAP, who does Sapphire now, and they have a 1 million net square foot campus floor, and they launched that in 2012. And I asked him, why did you take this 1 million net square foot trade show and turn it into a campus? And he said it was all about the customer. And I think that is a great lesson to be learned. He explained, SAP serves so many different markets, and they pavilionized their campus. So you would have a product set with exhibitors or partners is what they call them, with their partner companies, and the sessions right next to it. He said, one day we realized it took 20 minutes to walk from one end of the show floor to the other, and half of it was wasted time. So putting the like-minded customers together, that birds of a feather concept, I thought was, one, really smart, and two, just a nice, inspiration for us all to really think about, how do we make the customer experience better? So we thought now we'll open it up to any questions on Event Tech and then move on into some other innovative ideas from Shepherd. That's a good question. We had 800 attendees and about 50 exhibitors. The bulk of the revenue growth was from, honestly, attendee revenue, but we tripled the exhibit revenue, but it was small to start out with 15 tabletops, to be frank. So I think there's still continual growth there. And for us, I recognize that it's a small show floor, but it was a nice test for us to really, get started and try it out. And I think what we learned is that the attendee experience and the exhibitor experience were both improved. So I think now the true test is, do we try it out on an aerospace event? Do we, a lot of healthcare events already have CE programs on the show floor, but how do you really maximize that?
Getting your registration with all using one registration style,
Yes.
how can you do this sort of a style if you have an expo badge versus a conference badge?
That's a good question. Do you charge for your expo badge now? I think, in my head, you could gate it, and so you could gate some of the sessions, right? And I've seen events that do that, actually, where, they've got the plexi theaters on the show floor, and you can only get in if you have a conference pass, and what a great upsell opportunity. I'd love to have everybody there with iPads and squares, and just, you want to get in? Okay, great, upgrade right now. So I think there is some opportunity to do that. You'd really have to think it through. The other way is the way we're doing it this year, which is, some of the platinum content you have to pay more for. And if you want to see it live and be able to interact with the speaker direct, that's the premium price. Any other questions? Okay, we thought we would highlight some non-traditional floor plans from Shepherd that Richard shared with us. So thinking outside of the sandbox. This is a toxicology expo. If we show your floor plan, please wave your hand so we can call on you. But this floor plan was created to, again, increase engagement and buzz on the show floor. And you'll see they have the wide cross aisles throughout the show. They actually carpeted that a bright yellow to really draw the eye and to draw attendees through. The one thing that Richard shared with us is that they really did feel like they captured the different feel and environment, and that it drew people throughout the floor. But one of my questions, Richard, for you is, did all of these booths that are kind of funky shapes pay for custom carpet?
Test. Some did, and some we worked with just taking a traditional piece of carpet, then we overlaid the aisle carpet, so it worked out. And then we did special pricing on this, and I think there's another example, and you'll see coming up we did some special pricing on cut and lay for anybody who were on the demarcation aisles going into it. From that standpoint, so that they didn't feel like that they were being penalized for being on those aisles.
Okay, that's good. Did a lot of them take advantage of the triangular shape and build their booth around that?
Absolutely. Going into this process, the original thought was that the exhibitors might give a little pushback, which I think in a lot of businesses, us included, we sometimes let the tail wag the dog. So there was a lot of fear going into that. But the exhibit base really embraced it because it gave a non-traditional exhibit with different type of spaces, some triangles, some just that was your traditional 20 by 30 with the corner cut off. And they built their exhibits around it and really looked at it that they were getting great storefront traffic on those main aisles, and now it's become a premium space.
Wow, that's a great success story. Anybody have any questions on this one?
In the beginning, this is kind of a funny story. In the beginning, when Seco did this, and we were in the sales office, I had a calculator, and I was sitting there calculating the net square foot of each booth as they sold it. They later were able to load this into ExpoCAD and get the specific square footage down to sell it. So it, it was an evolution process. So it actually, works out well because, some of there really is only, in the case of this floor plan, maybe 2 or 3 booths that go down to, really less than 200. But then there's other booths where it might have been traditionally maybe 15% more square footage in that area than they would have traditionally bought because they perceive they're getting one thing, but they're buying something else.
So this is the Seco show floor from 2014, and what I really loved about this case study is they flipped the show floor. So you'll see the smaller booths are in the front and the larger booths are in the back. And for any of us who have, done a space selection and had that 10 by 10 exhibitor come back to the sales office and say, oh, when am I going to get to the front? I love this as a case study because it does kind of, change our thinking and show us an opportunity to put the bigger guys in the back and give the front space to some of the smaller.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about that one too is that you have these 2 aisles that create this expressway all the way to the back, to the big booths. So if you're trying to pitch this to, your 20 by 20s or larger, for them we are accommodating putting you in the back because you might get that initial shock of, I'm sorry, you want to put us where? But they're the larger booths. Attendees will end up there anyway. And by having these 2 diagonal aisles, those directly send you back to that area. So that helps sell it too, I think, which is something I really liked about this one. Yeah.
Something else interesting with this floor plan that they do, section that you can show.
Oh, hi.
They have different height restrictions, so the people in the front kind of center area can only go up to 8 feet tall, and then the next little section can go up to 16, and then the back guys, they can go up to 24 feet. So they have that visibility, even though they are a little further back.
That's great.
Oh, that's really
Is it-
smart. Yes?
I have a question on that, so how did it start out where the big guys were in the front and then it was transition? Because how would you, if you have like first right of refusal for your space, how would you incorporate that into such a change?
The way this all came about when they originally did this about 14 years ago, 14 years ago, the space was half of that, and the show was struggling with growth, and they couldn't get smaller exhibitors in. So the idea really wasn't the leadership of Seco at the time was not really so much interested in making their major first right of refusal of squatters' rights or anything. They made a business decision and not an emotional decision. And so what they did was they said, this is what's best for the organization. And, and if they made somebody mad, they made them mad. At the time, there was a calculated risk in that, Bausch & Lomb, Ciba Vision, Alcon, those key anchors were going to come anyway because they could not come and see 5,000 to 7,000 doctors on the floor. So they were going to come anyway. The part they were having trouble selling was the small frameware companies and the startup manufacturers of eye equipment. So that's what makes up the front of the hall now is those very small companies that come in, but the groups that are in the peripheral of the show, they understand the event, that not just the show floor. What Bausch & Lomb spends on their exhibit space on that floor is probably just 10% of what they spend on this overall meeting because it's the event. So some of it, you just, it's not letting the tail wag the dog.
Yeah. Is it Megan? Is that right? Is there anything else on this one that you wanted to add?
That's great.
That's great.
Okay, we'll show one more, which is the NetApp show. And the curve in the center, kind of the upside down U, is actually all exhibitors. And you'll see the food and theater on the show floor. So we thought this was just another great example to share where all of the elements were combined on the show floor. And the goal of this redesign was to have every exhibitor feel like they had equal exposure. And I think this is a really neat way to do that when you look at the entrance and that you kind of come into this rotunda of exhibits, and then all of the other activity is on the perimeter. Any questions on this one? Those are the larger exhibitors in the center, yeah. And then the circular part, the exhibitors were seen on either side, so you can see the kind of two tables. They could be seen on either side, so that each two-table set represents one exhibiting company. We just wanted to finish off with a few ideas on creating interaction on the show floor and revenue through sponsored experiences. So one of the things that we're launching this year, and there's quite a few medical associations that have done this, ACC comes to mind with the Cath Lab of the Future, but for our operating room manager show, we are launching an interactive hybrid OR on the show floor. So we are partnering with sponsors to build an operating room on the show floor and place their product within the operating room to really create a hands-on learning environment for our attendees. And with the sponsorship, we are allowing each sponsored product to have a representative within the OR to be able to do demos and talk to the product directly. We have, this is kind of thinking outside the box from a sponsorship perspective, so we do have an application process to make sure that, one, we have the right product sets and product mix within the operating room that we're building, and two, to make sure that we don't have any holes. It kind of goes back to the conversation earlier about how do you launch an event. Well, I feel like how do you launch a new element like this on the trade show floor? It's the same thing. You need early buy-in. We really had to establish, the core 12 companies that were willing to invest up front before we took it to market. But we're really excited about this and looking forward to having the attendees experience it. From a logistics perspective, we are building out the OR. We're having all of the product placements come to us directly, but we're installing them and doing all the I&D, but we are asking the sponsors to have representatives there because it is expensive equipment that we want to make sure is installed properly. So just a lot of things to think about, but I think a really fun and different way to have a sponsorship. This is much more traditional, but this is for our satellite show, which is our largest show in the portfolio. But just thinking about ways to take, pieces of the show floor that already exist, like a 20-foot wide aisle, and creating a story. So this was their 50th anniversary. As you walk down the wide aisle, you picked up different pieces on the company's history, different stories, and I think that was a nice interactive thing to highlight. Twitter walls have been very popular. We do them at quite a few of our events, and again, I think the key is selling the 365 package. So the push marketing leading up to the event, the tweets on site. We even do Twitter views with the sponsoring company CEO at a timed place and location, and then broadcast that through all of our media walls that are sponsored. And another interactive piece, much like the hybrid ORs, we're doing a hackathon, and I know there's other events that do that, like Black Hat, but this event is our Oilcom show. It serves network analysts, IT engineers for the oil and gas market. So we are building out a simulated network on our show floor for an offshore oil rig, inviting attendees to hack into it. And the piece that I'm really excited about is our closing session for the conference is going to be a panel of what we learned and what solutions could have been in place to, eliminate the hack or to defray that. So I think it's kind of tying again together that play of this is what happens on the show floor and then talking it through in a content perspective. Any questions? Well, you all have been a great audience. We really appreciate your time, and we're here to answer anything that you may have. Thanks for sitting through this and letting us share some of the things that we're doing.